Hello and welcome. From the You Need Faith in Jesus team, we're diving into Psalm 52 today. And wow, is it a powerful one? It's a song that was literally born from an act of betrayal. It draws this incredible contrast between a man whose power comes from his destructive words and a life that thrives because it's planted in God. It's really a story about two paths in two very, very different endings. So let's get into it. So David just jumps right in, doesn't he? He starts with this direct challenge, a piercing question aimed right at a specific person. He calls him a mighty man, and you can almost hear the sarcasm in his voice. David's point is just razor sharp. What kind of strength is built on causing trouble? And then he immediately shatters this guy's pride by holding it up to an eternal reality. The goodness of God is constant. It's unending. It's always there.
So that makes you wonder, right? Who is this mighty man, and what on earth did he do to provoke such a powerful psalm? Well, to really get the full weight of David's words, we have to uncover the dark story that inspired them.
The psalm's own introduction actually points us straight to the villain of the story, a man named Doeg the Edomite, who, it says, came and told Saul. This single act of reporting, this treacherous use of words, set off a chain of events with absolutely devastating consequences.
The backstory for all this? You can find it back in 1 Samuel, chapters 21 and 22. It starts with David on the run from a jealous King Saul. He gets some help from a priest named Ahimelech. But here's the thing. Doeg the Edomite sees this act of kindness. And what does he do? He runs and reports David to Saul. Saul, in a paranoid rage, orders his own guards to kill the priests. But they refuse. They won't do it. So Doeg, the one who made the accusation, steps up and becomes the executioner himself. He personally murders 85 priests and then wipes out their entire city. This is the horrific, evil act that David is confronting in this psalm.
So when you know that story, verse 1 just hits differently, doesn't it? Doeg might have felt pretty mighty serving his king, but David is exposing his power as a complete and total illusion. Any strength you get from doing evil is just a pathetic boast when you put it up against the backdrop of God's eternal goodness. You know, the prophet Jeremiah would later write in chapter 9, verse 23, "Let not the mighty man glory in his might. True strength is found in God and God alone." Okay, so now David does something really fascinating. He moves on from confronting the man to actually dissecting the very nature of his evil. It's like he's performing an autopsy on Doeg's sin, and he starts with the weapon he chose to use.
The first weapon wasn't a sword. It was his tongue. David says it deviseth mischiefs, meaning this wasn't an accident. This was a calculated plan. And the imagery David uses to describe this weapon, it's just chilling.
I mean, just think about that metaphor for a second. A sharp razor. It's not some clumsy club. It's precise. It's deadly. And it's designed to cut so deeply and cleanly that you might not even feel the wound at first. That's exactly what Doeg's words were. They were crafted to be lethal. As the book of James warns us in chapter 3, verse 6, the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. While Doeg's tongue ignited a fire that burned down an entire city.
But it gets deeper. David moves from the weapon to the motive. This wasn't just about doing the wrong thing. This was about the desires of the heart. Doeg's moral compass wasn't just broken, it was completely backwards. He loved evil more than good. He preferred lying over speaking righteousness. And then David writes, Selah. That's our cue, you know? It's like he's telling us, hey, pause here, stop and really meditate on how terrifying that is. A soul that finds darkness more beautiful than light. The depth of this guy's corruption is just staggering. He didn't just tell lies, he loved all devouring words. Words specifically designed to consume, to ruin, and to destroy lives. He actually found pleasure in the destructive power of his own speech. You know, Proverbs 12:18 says, some words can pierce like a sword, and Doeg's tongue was a weapon he just loved to use. So after laying out this grim diagnosis of evil, the whole psalm takes this dramatic turn. David stops talking to Doeg and starts declaring what God is going to do about him. This is the pivot point, right here, to God's perfect and inescapable justice. Listen to the language here. It is so absolute, so final. This isn't just a punishment, it's a permanent removal. David gives us three powerful pictures of what God will do.
He will take thee away, like grabbing something and just removing it. He will pluck thee out, like ripping a tent peg out of the ground. And finally, he will root thee out, like a dead tree being completely torn out of the soil, roots and all. This is David's faithful declaration that God will, in the end, settle all accounts.
So how are God's people supposed to react when they see this judgment? First, they will see it, and it will produce a holy fear. Not terror, but this deep, humbling awe of God's power and his justice. And then he says they will laugh. Now hold on, this isn't a cruel, mean-spirited laugh. It's the laugh of pure relief and vindication, that moment when the sheer foolishness of evil is finally exposed and taken care of for good. And this right here, this reveals Doeg's fatal error. This is the lesson for all of us. Verse 7 spells it out. This is a man who made riches and wickedness his strength, not God. His entire life was built on a foundation of greed and evil plans, and that is a foundation that is always, always destined to crumble. And all of this dark picture of judgment, it's all building up to the psalm's incredible climax, the great contrast. After describing this wicked man who's going to be uprooted, David paints a beautiful picture of the thriving believer. This table really just lays it all out, side by side. You've got Doeg, who trusts in riches, and David, who trusts in mercy. Doeg's destiny is to be uprooted and destroyed, but David's is to be a thriving olive tree. Doeg's weapon is his deceitful tongue, but David's foundation is the very house of God. 2 paths, 2 foundations, and 2 eternal destinies. And here it is. This is the heart of it. In the face of all this evil, David declares who he is. He's not an uprooted weed. He says, but I am like a green olive tree. What a picture that is, right? The olive tree was a symbol of stability, of fruitfulness, of long life. And where is it planted? In the house of God, a place of God's presence, fellowship, and total security. And this, right here, is the key to everything. So why is David a thriving tree? It's not because he's a perfect man or some mighty warrior. The secret is right there in the verse. I trust in the mercy of God forever and ever. His stability doesn't come from his own performance. It comes from his constant reliance on God's unending grace. So David wraps it all up with this 2-part commitment. First, it's praise. He says, thou hast done it, speaking in faith as if God's justice is already a done deal. And second, it's waiting. He says he will wait on thy name, which means he's going to patiently trust in the very character of God to act. And this whole posture of praise and patience, he says, is good before thy saints. It's a powerful and encouraging testimony for the whole community of faith to see. Okay, so what does all this mean for you and me today? This isn't just an old story. It's a living word with really profound implications for our lives. How can we personally live out the truth of this psalm? Well, let's break it down into 4 practical steps drawn right from the psalm. First, guard your tongue. Keep it from mischief and those devouring words. Second, examine your heart. Ask God to help you love what he loves. Third, check your foundation. Is your strength really in God, or is it in worldly things? And finally, fourth, practice a faith that praises God for what he will do and waits patiently for his perfect timing. And that really brings us to our final thought here from the You Need Faith in Jesus team. Look, Doeg's story is a really sobering warning, for sure. But David's story is a beautiful invitation. We live in a world that is full of sharp razors and devouring words. So the question this psalm leaves us with isn't for Doeg, it's for us. It's personal. How will you choose to be a green olive tree, planted securely in the house of God, thriving by trusting in his mercy forever?